In this video, I'm going to show you exactly why people dumber than you are making more money than you. And I'll cover the 3 main reasons and then teach you how to get out of it definitively. I only thought of making this video because I saw that legendary video of Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's best friend and vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, saying he made more money than Albert Einstein.
Why was Albert Einstein poorer than I was?
And as smart as Charlie is, well, Einstein was one of the greatest geniuses in history. And you must see some celebrities and think, how is this person rich and I'm not? I understand, but I don't think this is healthy or right. In fact, comparing yourself and focusing on other people's lives will only hinder you from becoming rich. Well, don't forget to sign up to be part of our community of cousins. Let's dive in. So, the first reason is the Dunning-Krueger effect. Let's talk about Paris Hilton. For years, people laughed at her. They saw her as just another rich girl, famous for being famous. All looks, no brains. But Paris herself revealed in Cosmopolitan UK that the high-pitched voice, the clueless attitude, the dumb blonde routine was all a calculated persona. And why did she do it? Because she understood something that most smart people still don't. People pay attention to what they underestimate. By playing the fool, she became a meme, a talking point, a headline, and attention turns into money. She turned a stereotype into a billion-dollar business. While the world mocked her, she was licensing products, launching brands, and building an empire. Paris Hilton has opened over 45 stores globally, launched 19 product lines, and her fragrance business alone has generated over $2.5 billion in revenue. So here's the question: was she really dumb, or were you just outplayed by someone much smarter than you thought? This brings us to the Dunning-Krueger effect. The original study, published in 1999 by David Dunning and Justin Krueger at Cornell University, found that people with lower competence in grammar, logic, and reasoning were the ones who most overestimated their abilities. For example, the bottom 25% of performers believed they were in the 62nd percentile. In reality, they were dead last, but they thought they were above average. That's the point. You probably think you know more about business than Mr. Beast, more about strategy than Paris Hilton, more about marketing than Kim Kardashian. But what if you're the one who's delusional? While you're on Twitter mocking famous people who got lucky, they're closing 8-figure deals, acquiring companies, building brands, and turning attention into long-term wealth. And the worst part, they make it look easy, which only reinforces your illusion that they're lucky idiots. But it's not luck, it's strategy, positioning, long-term thinking, and maybe your so-called intelligence is just keeping you stuck in a loop of overanalysis, judgment, and inaction. Because at the end of the day, real intelligence is knowing how to play the game. Well, the second reason is wrong understanding of risk. Most people don't know this, but in behavioral finance, there's a phenomenon called risk perception asymmetry. It means people don't act based on actual risk. They act based on how risky something feels. And that feeling is often wrong. A 2011 study in the Journal of Economic Psychology found that people with low financial literacy but high confidence are significantly more likely to invest in stocks, crypto, or start businesses, while those with high financial literacy but low confidence tend to stay in conservative positions even when they know how to do better. In other words, the less you know, the more confident you feel. The more you know, the more cautious you become. And here's the trap: caution doesn't protect you from risk. It often exposes you to a different one: inaction. Because in today's world, speed beats precision. Not always, but often enough to make a difference. But wait, I'm not saying to you, go and jump from a cliff. Why? Let me tell you a personal story. I bought Bitcoin in 2011. It was cheap, practically a joke. I saw the potential, but I also saw the risk. I thought about volatility, regulation, lack of use cases. So I sold it. If I were more naive, if I didn't know anything, I might have just held on. And today, I'd be a multi-millionaire from that trade alone. But here's the twist: I'm a multi-millionaire anyway, not because I chased every hype cycle, but because I learned how to take calculated risks consistently, not random shots in the dark. I also guarantee you that my wealth is more solid than that of many people who only got rich by buying crypto. And by the way, you can copy my formula. It's not a shot in the dark, and it's been working since the beginning of time. But why am I talking about it? There's what you rarely see: failure. Failure is silent. No one's posting on Instagram that they lost everything on a meme coin. No YouTuber goes viral for losing their life savings on a startup that never launched. Why? Because the losers go quiet. You never hear their stories. The only ones who speak up are the survivors, the lottery winners, the few who made reckless bets that happened to work. And because you only hear about them, you start thinking, maybe I'm too conservative. Maybe I missed the boat because I was too smart. This is really important because I don't want you to come out this video thinking, OMG, I need to search for the next Bitcoin and everything. No, stop. Major part of the guys who made insane money with crypto are actually lucky. They could have lost everything, just like a lot of guys in the past who bet all their money on super risky things. So what's the real takeaway here? You don't understand anything about risk, much less the guy who happened to make the right bet at the right time. It's not that you should be reckless, and it's definitely not that you should chase the next Bitcoin. It's that you need to stop mistaking caution for intelligence and risk for recklessness, because not taking action can be just as dangerous as taking the wrong one. The goal isn't to play the lottery. The goal is to build wealth with clarity, consistency, and courage. Yes, you should understand risk. Yes, you should educate yourself. But once you do, you need to act. Not wait forever for perfect certainty that'll never come. The market doesn't reward knowledge. It rewards action. The third reason is simple. You're afraid to look stupid. You don't start the business. You don't launch the product. You don't post the content because deep down, you'd rather look smart and stay stuck than risk embarrassment and actually grow. But here's what research says. A study from the University of California found that fear of negative evaluation is one of the biggest predictors of inaction in entrepreneurs, even more than lack of funding or knowledge. Translation: most people fail not because they don't know what to do, but because they're scared of looking wrong in public. And yet, looking stupid temporarily is often the price of real success. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, even Mr. Beast all looked like jokes before they looked like geniuses. If you're not willing to look dumb for a little while, you'll never look smart in the long run. So ask yourself, are you optimizing for status or results? Because one of them gets applause, the other builds wealth. Now, how do you get rid of it? How to be more confident and start making money instead of just using your intelligence to play Mario Kart really well? Getting straight to the point. If one of the problems is your distorted perception of risk, then you have to learn how to deal with risk the right way. And to do that, you need to stop feeling risk and start measuring it. Most people think risk is about how much something moves, if the price goes up or down, if it's volatile, if it feels scary. That's wrong. Real risk is the probability of permanent loss, not short-term pain. Let's be clear. If you invest $10,000 into a diversified ETF like the S&P 500 and it drops 30%, you lost $3,000 on paper. But the historical probability of full recovery over 10 years is basically 100%. That's not real risk. That's just waiting. Now, if you put the same $10,000 into a friend's idea with no legal contract, no business plan, and no control, the odds of permanent loss shoot up. That's risk. Same amount of money, completely different outcomes. And most people don't know how to tell the difference. The same thing applies to business. People say starting a business is risky, but data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that 65% of businesses survive at least 2 years and 50% make it to year 5. So when people say half fail, the second level way to see it is half succeed. If you launch a business that costs $20,000 to start and has a 50% chance of making $50,000 a year, that's a positive expected value. Even if 2 fail, the one that works can pay for all of them and more. And if you are smart, study the business before getting into it and know what you are doing, you are already ahead of most people. Many people start a business out of desperation without knowing anything. This is why smart investors think in terms of expected value, not fear. What's the expected expected return of an action, adjusted for probability. If there's a 60% chance you'll make $10,000 and a 40% chance you'll lose $5,000, the expected value of that decision is positive. It's worth doing, even if it still feels risky. But if the odds are reversed, it's a bad bet, no matter how exciting it looks. And here's where second-level thinking kicks in. In investing, volatility is not your enemy. In fact, since 1980, the S&P 500 has had an average drop of 14% inside each year, but still finished positive in 77% of those years. Meaning, if you freaked out every time things got volatile, you'd miss almost every recovery. So no, the goal is not to avoid risk. The goal is to understand it, price it, and then take it with consistency. Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize winner and author of Thinking Fast and Slow, said that good decisions don't come from being bold. They come from having a good process. When you write things down, calculate upside and downside, define time frames, and think in probabilities instead of feelings, you don't need to be fearless. You just need to be structured. You don't eliminate risk. You make it predictable. And when you do that, you stop freezing. You stop asking, what if I lose? And start asking, what's this worth if I win? You stop chasing the next big thing and start building something that actually lasts. Another change you have to make is this: stop comparing yourself. Not because it's bad for your self-esteem, but because it's intellectually lazy and strategically useless. When you compare yourself to someone else's success, you're usually doing it without access to the variables that got them there. You don't know their cost of capital. You don't know their leverage, their burn rate, their risk exposure, their personal liabilities. You don't know how much luck was involved, or if what they're showing you is even real. What you're doing is benchmarking yourself against outputs, not inputs, and that's a problem. Let's say someone made $5 million on crypto. You didn't, so you feel behind. But here's what you didn't see. That person might have borrowed money, sold at the wrong time, paid 27.5% in capital gains tax, and now has no clue how to reinvest. Or worse, they got lucky once, and now they think they're a genius. That's not wealth, that's fragility. Comparison pushes you to optimize for speed instead of sustainability. It makes you take shortcuts to catch up in a race that doesn't exist, and the data backs this up. A study published in Nature Communications in 2021 found that people who regularly engage in upward comparison, meaning they constantly compare themselves to people doing better, show higher levels of anxiety, distraction, and financial risk-taking. In short, comparison makes you feel poor even when you're not, and that feeling pushes you to make worse decisions. If you're going to act like an investor or an entrepreneur, you need to think like one, and no serious investor prices assets based on emotion. So why are you pricing your life that way? Focus on your own cost structure, your own timeline, your own risk tolerance, your own compounding engine. Because the truth is, comparison is a distraction from execution. And every minute you spend watching someone else's scoreboard is a minute you're not building your own. Stay in your game. Bye, cousin.